I will start by explaining the 5 different modes of inheritance. First off, autosomal dominant. So with autosomal dominant, it is not a sex-linked trait, so it doesn't differ between boy and girl. And affected individuals can be heterozygous or homozygous as long as they're homozygous with the dominant allele. Now, regarding autosomal recessive, which again is not sex-linked, so it doesn't differentiate between boy and girl, and only the homozygous recessive allele will work. Y-linked traits, the trait is clearly on the Y chromosome, which is why females play no role, and all affected males will have affected sons. Now, with X-linked dominant, all affected males will have affected daughters. And as you can see here, males have 2 genotypes and 2 phenotypes, while females have 3 genotypes and 2 phenotypes. So if you're a male and you have the dominant allele, you will be affected. If you're a female, if you're heterozygous or you're homozygous with a dominant allele, you will be affected. Lastly, with X-linked recessive, all affected females will have affected sons. And again, like I mentioned last slide, males have 2 genotypes and 2 phenotypes, while females have 3 genotypes and 2 phenotypes. So if you're a male and you have the recessive allele, then you will be affected. And if you're female and you're homozygous with a recessive allele, you will be affected. Now I present the SpongeBob round brown disease pedigree. I shaded in all of the characters that are round and brown and left all of the square yellow characters not shaded. I'm going to go through and identify which modes of inheritance work for this family tree and which don't. And obviously, being round and brown, if you've ever watched SpongeBob before, isn't lethal, but it's a disease for this case. So first we're going to look at autosomal recessive, and if we look at what I filled in, at first it looks like it works, but then you go to Harold and Margaret SquarePants, and they're both autosomal recessive, and they have a son in SpongeBob that is not affected, and that would not be possible if autosomal recessive work. So now for X-linked recessive, we see that Grandma SquarePants is homozygous recessive, which means that she can only pass on that trait for the round and brown disease to her sons, because her sons would be getting the Y from their dad. So therefore, Sherm, Blue, and Harold SquarePants should all be round and brown, but Sherm is not, so therefore X-linked recessive does not work. Now we examine if Y-linked works, and this is the easiest one to see. First off, Grandma SquarePants and Margaret SquarePants have the trait, so clearly it is not Y-linked. And then if that isn't convincing enough, Harold SquarePants has it, but then doesn't pass it on to SpongeBob SquarePants, which again is not possible. Here we have autosomal dominant with all the filled-in genotypes, and as you can see, it works. And lastly, we examine X-linked dominant with all the filled-in genotypes, and as you can see, this also is a possibility.